We start with the Republican primary for governor. It is now a two-woman race. Former TV news anchor Kari Lake versus development consultant and former Arizona regent Karrin Taylor Robson. Polling shows them separated by just a few points with a large number of undecided voters. The two other candidates are contractor Scott Neely and bakery entrepreneur Paola Tuliani-Zen. Both are polling in the low single digits. Karrin Taylor Robson won a big endorsement last week from outgoing Governor Doug Ducey. Welcome to Square Off.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Why was Governor Ducey's endorsement so important to your campaign?
Well, Governor Ducey, he's joining a long growing list of conservatives, not only in Arizona, but from around the country, who know me, they know my record, and to have him endorse me is huge for me. We've got Bill Bennett, Steve Moore, Newt Gingrich last week also endorsed me. Governor Ducey joins former Arizona governors Fife Symington and Jan Brewer, both of whom are the campaign co-chairs for my campaign. They've all known me for decades. They know my commitment to conservative issues. They know the work that I've done in the trenches for many, many years. So I am honored and humbled to have their support, and including and importantly, Governor Ducey.
So Kari Lake and other Republican critics dismiss you sarcastically, roughly, as Doug Ducey in address. In other words, a continuation. 4 more years of Doug Ducey. So can you pinpoint specific differences you might have in how you would govern versus how Doug Ducey has governed?
Well, of course, you know, I'm going to start the first term of a Taylor Robson administration, and every governor brings different perspectives. I will bring different perspectives, different experiences to the table. This is a state I love. I've raised my family here. I've grown my businesses here. I've had the opportunity to work on some of the best communities in the state of Arizona, and all of those experiences will inform how I govern. And, you know, the first thing I'm going to do is build upon the economic successes of this administration. We have a robust economy. We have an economy that is far more diversified today than it was just 10 years ago. And I will build on that. But absolutely, I will, you know, I'm a different person, and I will bring a different approach to the ninth floor.
Can you think of a specific way that approach will be different, a specific policy that might be different that would really put your stamp on this administration?
You know, there's a number of things. You know, Governor Ducey inherited an economy that he had to build upon, and I think he's done a very, very good job of that. When you look at the fact that Arizona has moved up in the rankings from 13th to number 3 in the annual rankings of the economic health of a state, that's something to be proud of, and he should be proud of. And I need to make sure that I don't do anything to screw that up. But there are things we can do, I think, to improve upon that, particularly when it comes to education. We have to do a better job when it comes to education, and I have been a huge advocate for school choice for a long, long time. I was appointed to my kids' school board 18 years ago, a charter school board when we had one school. There's now 23 schools in that school system with thousands of kids on a waiting list, and parents want to choose, and I'm going to build on that because every child in this state deserves a great education, and so you'll see me focusing quite a bit on education.
You're a first-time candidate, but you're not new to politics. I don't know if most folks know this, but you grew up in a Republican political family. Your dad was Senate President Carl Knasik. He presided at the trial of former Governor Evan Mecham, who was ultimately thrown out of office. Your brother, Andy Knasik, longtime Maricopa County board member. Both were in office at pretty tough times for the state and for the Republican Party. What lessons did you learn from their experiences as politicians?
I learned a lot from both of them. You know, they are both, you know, very conservative, and they never compromised their conservative principles, but they modeled for me that we have to respect each other, whether we agree with each other or not. You know, regardless of your political persuasion or background, at the end of the day, we're all Americans. And what makes, you know, America so great is our ability to you know, work with one another regardless of our differences to try and solve complex problems. And you're right, they did serve during very tumultuous times, but they did so with honor, and both of them, both my father and my brother, have significant legacies in their, you know, in their respective roles.
Tumultuous times for the state and their parties. Your father lost his job. He was kicked out of office because of his role in the Meekum trial. Republicans were very upset with him. We're seeing that today in the Republican Party, aren't we? That really a lack of respect. Do you agree with that?
Well, my first job out of college was working for Ronald Reagan, and so he was kind of my political mentor and hero, and he always talked about party politics as one of addition and multiplication, not division and subtraction. And so when I'm governor, that will be my approach to things. This is about expanding the tent, so to speak. And unfortunately today you see too much division going on within our political parties.
Let's talk about today. We are awaiting court action that could result in Arizona's 160-year-old abortion ban being activated for the first time in 50 years. It only allows exceptions to save a woman's life. So I'm going to ask you to be clear here. Yes or no, do you support exceptions in cases of rape or incest?
Yes, I do.
You do?
I do.
Would you work with the legislature to see that that becomes law?
I would, yes. I am pro-life. I always have been. I've been in the trenches on pro-life causes and supporting crisis pregnancy centers. And I believe this is an issue that, the fact that the Supreme Court has put it back into the states where it belongs, it gives us an opportunity to have the conversation as a state. And we will have, when I'm governor, we will continue to have one of the most pro-life states in the nation. But we will also make sure that the women are taken care of, and as much as we care about her unborn child, we need to care for the woman.
All right. During the recent Republican debate, Kari Lake said your refusal to say the election was stolen was, quote, disqualifying and sickening. What would you say to Republican voters, and there are many of them, who agree with her?
Well, what I say is the 2020 election was not fair, and a lot of people don't like that answer, but I'm not going to change my answer because I believe that. When when I look at the media suppressing news, and I don't need to say anything more than Hunter Biden, or big tech suppressing conservative voices. There's another story out today about big tech suppressing conservative viewpoints, or Mark Zuckerberg spending nearly $500 million to increase voter turnout in heavily Democratic areas. All of those things led to 78% of Republicans in Arizona thinking something was wrong with the election. So my point has been, let's fix what we can. Let's increase penalties for ballot harvesting, ensure we have voter ID, push back against the federal government's attempt to take over our elections. We need to do all that. We need to do that each and every year, each and every election cycle, do everything we can to make it easier to vote and harder to cheat. But I have been keenly focused on 2022 and looking ahead and making sure that we keep Arizona in Republican hands, because 2024 is a pretty critical election to get rid of Joe Biden.
I think the issue with unfair is in some ways keeps conspiracy theories alive. For example, it is documented that Facebook was in fact the best friend to conservatives. It promoted conservative platforms far more through algorithms than any other platforms during the election. So I think the documented evidence isn't there. And that leads to my next question. So one of your most important jobs will be to certify the 2024 presidential election. We've never had to worry about that before, but now we do. Mm-hmm. And so can you tell voters now you would not allow conspiracy theories like the kinds we've heard, and I suspect fear will continue, to influence your decision when it comes to certifying the 2024 presidential election? What
I can ensure every voter and every citizen of Arizona is that I will look at the evidence presented to me. As a lawyer, that's what I do. I look at the evidence. I don't answer hypothetical questions. I look at the evidence presented to me, and I will make a judgment call as to whether or not that evidence is sufficient to certify an election or not.
And when you say unfair, is that really your way of saying, I don't buy the stuff that's out there that Kari Lake's been putting out there for the last year?
What I'm saying is there were issues that we need to resolve. But more importantly, I'm not going to stay on the 2020 battlefield. We're going to fix those issues. The legislature didn't do a whole lot this time. We will add additional safeguards to our election when I'm governor. But my focus is, and always has been, on the next election, not the last election.
You do bring an interesting skill set to this office. I'm not sure any governor has had that. And it is your work as a land use consultant, expert. You've had a hand in major developments in the valley, in Verrado in the west, Eastmark in the east. And so I think you may understand better than most the water issue.
I do.
Water is a part of every one of these. It's an existential threat right now. What are some of the things that you would do to Should voters assume, given your work in the past on the side of developers, helping them build these massive new projects, that you will take a developer's viewpoint when it comes to dealing with the water issue?
Well, I will take my experience and expertise in that issue and bring that to the table. But my track record is bringing people together, bringing experts together. And water law is so complicated. And there are a handful of very, very great water experts in this state that we will bring together. And my water plan calls for augmenting our current sources of water, which we must do. And with technology, there's a lot of things we can do today that we couldn't do even 10 years ago. And then we also need to continue to conserve and find efficiencies in how we use our water. Arizona has had a track record of being a tremendous steward of our water resources for well over 100 years. And the people that came before us, they had long-term view of water. And that's, I think, our challenge, really, is not only deal with the current drought situation that we must take care of, but also be looking long-term so that the next generations, 50 and 100 years from now, have safe and reliable water sources.
Yeah, what we hear the water experts saying is we need to look at this right now. Absolutely. As one analyst told me, there is a 5-alarm fire. So how urgent is it, and how would you respond to that? It
is urgent, and there's a lot of people working on it right now. They're not waiting for the next governor. They're working on it right now. And so I will step into that role, and we will make sure that the plans that are made and steps that are being taken are prudent. That will be my job. That will be my role. And this is about not just, a development or Phoenix. This is about the entire state. I mean, there are different situations all over this state between rural Arizona, areas that have water, but it might not be high-quality water, that need treatment options. With technology, we can manage better today than we have in the past. So it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. We also have to make sure that the other states in the Colorado River Basin are doing their fair share of that. And right now, I don't think that's the case. So we will be working on that as well.
I'll end with a yes or no question. Will you pledge to support Kari Lake if she is the Republican nominee for governor?
I have always supported Republican nominees. That is the history of and the story of my life, and I will always support the Republican nominee.
So that's a yes?
That's you can extrapolate from what I just said.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
Yes, that's a yes. All right. Karrin Taylor Robson, thanks so much for joining us. Best of luck.
Thank you.